G'day there, everyone. How's it all going? I see that there's a few attendees starting to pile up. Steve L. Is that Steve Lees? How you going? Chelsea, Garth, evening. I was told to just do a little bit of mucking around, I guess, wait for a few more people to turn up. Hope everyone is doing well out there, and you got some rain over the weekend. We got some a little bit on Monday, but not like it did on the East Coast or up north. Yeah. So tonight's topic is a sort of continuation, and I've been asked to present feed budget in FarmIQ. So I'm going to do that. Can everyone see? You should be able to see on screen the FarmIQ feed budget tool, at least the start of it. And so what I'll do is actually I will go to the process of actually how you get to access it and start off. So let's start from scratch. So let's say you are just on your main page. It might be your map of your farm, and you want to access the feed budget. So this my mocked up farm there. So I'm just going to move out of the road so I don't get it in the road. And actually, that's not working too good. Just refresh that. Try and get it to go larger size. Come on, FarmIQ, that's better. Probably you couldn't have seen it anyway. So right, back on deck. So if you are wanting to do a feed budget, this is where you find it in FarmIQ. You go up to along the top here, and you go to Tools and Calculators. You click on it. Brings up the next screen. And tonight it's this one we're going to talk about, the feed budget. I believe maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, you looked at the spring rotation planner. There's also this one called feed planner in the pasture wedge. Tonight we're just going to look at the feed budget, which I will try and explain, and maybe I won't explain too much of a difference between them, but I'll obviously give you a good overview of what the feed budget is all about. So you click on view to go into that. And you can see actually, first of all, there's a whole heap here that I've created previously. I'm just going to click on, I'm going to start from scratch and do a brand new one. I'm going to click on add. That list that was there, that is handy because you can obviously reuse those ones that you've previously used for maybe previous years. So, okay, so let's talk a bit about this feed budget. One of the things that you're presented with at the start is you've got to make a basic decision between, do you want to create a budget that includes pasture or create a budget that is only supplementary feed and or crops? I'm going to actually look at this one here about one that only includes supplementary feed and or crops because it's easier to explain first off, and then we'll go back and look at the one that includes pasture. So the feed budget in FarmIQ is a system that looks at calculating how much feed supply you've got relative to how much feed demand that you might have from your animals. And it gives you, so you've got two basic input screens, feed supply and feed demand, and then it compares the two and gives you a bit of a report and gives you some very useful information. The feed budget is a energy-based tool. So what I mean by that is that when you set up your animals, what it's really doing in the background is that while you are specifying things like animal weight and how many there are, whether they're pregnant or lactating and how fast they're growing, and what type of animal that you've got, what it's actually doing in the background is it's working out how much energy they require to meet that demand. And then on the pasture side or the crop side of things, it's also working out how much energy is available, and it compares the two. It doesn't take into account their protein requirements. But the most important limiting factor of animal performance really in New Zealand on grazing-based situations is energy. So the equations that determine energy in Farm IQ are based on New Zealand Society of Animal Production equations from, I think I've got it here, from essentially from this book. So we went through this book and extracted the relationships and equations that are official publication. So we're pretty confident that the answers it tells you are based on, good science. Right, so that's sort of a bit of a background, and perhaps if we now dig into it. So we click on this little radio button, and that brings up the next screen. This is there's three basic screens: feed supply, feed demand, and a summary, as I said before. So this one here, where we're just doing a budget that only includes supplementary feed and or crops, you don't see anything about pasture. And this budget is really, think of it as actually on the supply side of it, I'm going to specify a chunk of feed, and then we're going to eat into it. It's not going to keep regrowing. We're just going to, eat the cake down until it's all gone. As you can imagine with kids, they disappear pretty quick. So the first thing is what date range do you want to do this for? So I'm going to change this. I'm going to make it from, let's say the 1st of July until maybe, let's say, maybe if I'm up in North Island, I might be thinking about a budget that goes through to maybe sometime in August, let's say, 40 or 50 days feeding on crop. And if I know if I can get through to that point in time, then I'm getting into sort of real early spring. I'm in a new phase, and I'm in good shape. So the default setting for the land type is based on whatever you set your Farm IQ up to be. And it does matter because how you set this, whether it's flat, rolling, steep, or high country, also impacts on the demand side of the animals, their maintenance requirement. Obviously, the steeper the country, the more energy they've got to use for getting around it. So you're given a couple of options about feed you can put into the system. So let's start with green feed crops, and say I'm going to be pretty traditional here, and I'm going to feed kale. I can do another crop if I want to, but I'm just going to keep it quite simple. What it does is when I choose kale, and there's quite a list there, we've got some default settings in the system for metabolizable energy, ME. And so it's suggested 11, right? If you think you've tested your crop and it's better than that, then change it. Or if it's worse than that, then change it. But let's just stick with the 11. So that's megajoules of metabolizable energy per kilogram of dry matter, or ME for short. And for this area fed, I mean, one of the key questions is back in the springtime when you might have sown this crop is actually, I should have done a budget then and determined how much area to sow. But let's say I've got, 10 hectares of crop, and I'm growing a reasonable crop. So maybe I've got, let's say 12 tons of dry matter per hectare of kale. Average crop, I'm not sure. Then there's an important factor here is wastage, and essentially that's really what the animals are going to be leaving behind and trampling into the ground. And I think you should be generous in this wastage figure. I think we waste more than we really think. So if you're conservative, you give yourself, let's say, 20% wastage. Then what it does, it goes 10 hectares by 12 tons per hectare times 20% wastage, and I take that off. So we end up, we've got 96,000 kilograms of dry matter that is available to be consumed by my animals. And I might want to chuck in some supplementary feed, so I might want to put out some baleage as well. And I'm going to say my baleage is you know, it's pretty mediocre. And I've got maybe, I don't know, 20 bales, and they are, in terms of dry matter, let's say they're 250 kilograms of dry matter each. And again, I'm going to waste a fair bit of it. So I've got 4,000 kilograms of dry matter from my supplementary feed. And again, I can add some more. So what it's done is it said 96,000 of green feed crops available, because I've added and I've adjusted for wastage, and also 4,000 of supplement is available for my animals. So that gives me a summary: 100,000 in total, 10,000 per hectare, or 213 per hectare per day if I'm based on a 47-day feeding. So click the next button. And what did I decide? I decided I'm going to demonstrate this for some cattle. And so let's say I've got some steers that I'm trying to fatten there some through winter, get them through winter, and then really hit the grass as it grows out the other side. So let's say I've got some R2 steers, and I'm going to say I've got 150 of these, and the average weight is maybe 475 kilograms. And I'm trying to keep them still growing. You know, maybe I'm going to do, and it's in kilograms per day, so I put in, make sure I'm going to try and do 0.5, 500 grams per day. So this is what I was saying before, is that Farm IQ in the background will work out that each animal, each 475 kilogram animal growing at half a kilogram a day will need almost 9 kilograms of this feed to achieve that, or almost 100 megagrams of energy. This standard size is pretty much all cattle in New Zealand would be just set at that. So that's your sort of Hereford Angus sizes. Okay, so yeah, so for my cattle, it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to get on and show you one where you've maybe got some animals that have sort of are pregnant or things like that, and that's a little bit more setting, but we'll just do cattle for now. So again, like the previous page, we get a summary down the bottom that says how much total feed demand per hectare and then per day. And those are great clues to how the budget's going to go. Okay, there it goes. It goes through and calculates it. So this is the summary page, and you can switch between these pages by clicking these top buttons as well, top links, and they'll take you back. But essentially, this is what it's saying, is that it's a summary of the supply and the demand. So we've got 100,000 or 100 tons of dry matter, and we've got 150 cattle. So the system's worked out that they need only 60 tons of this feed to get through that time. And so what it says is down the bottom here is it says actually you're not even going to chew through all that crop. You're going to have some left over. So, so there's several things we could do here. It says that you're going to have about, and it feeds them out, the crop and the supplements in the proportion that they're offered. And so you're going to have about, 38 tons left, and 57 used up, almost 58. So this is where I really like this budget, in that it gives me some nice tools right on this page to ask some things. So then you might be thinking, well, I've got 150 head of cattle. That number's not going to change. So if I want to actually work out how long they're going to last on this paddock, what I do is I grab the old-fashioned calculator here, and I guess you could do it on your phone, or you could do it you could pull up a calculator on the computer, or you could do it in your head, but I'm not that smart. So what I do is I say, how long will this crop actually last? And the best way you can do that is say, I don't actually want to feed it for 47 days. You'll notice that this box, some of these boxes, for example, this one, they're editable on this page. You don't have to go back. So if I actually make this just 1 day, then it automatically updates, and it says still 100,000 is the supply, but now it says is 1 day requires 1.2 tons. So if we get the old calculator here, and we go 100,000 divided by 1285. So 100,000 divided by 1285 gives me pretty much 77 days. Now that's going to, I can put that in there, and we're almost there, right? Give or take, doesn't really matter. But it gives you an answer, pretty much use up all the crop apart from 1 ton remaining. I can feed animals through to for 77 days. So if I intend to start feeding it on the 1st of July, I can actually take that all the way through to the 16th of September, which is a bonus. Or I could actually say, you know what, I've got to get these things on the truck on the original date, so I'm going to go there, and maybe I can actually sneak a few more in. So now I go, I'm going to make that one. And then it tells me one animal for 47 days needs 403 kilograms of dry matter. So get the old calculator and go 100,000 divided by 403. It tells me I can actually feed 248 animals. Right? So yeah, and then that's, you see there's very little left over. It's all used up. 248 animals. Well, I can carry way more than I thought. But I think the real way to use this is actually, as I said before, use it back in spring. Is that I know that I've got 150 animals. I want to feed them for 47 days or thereabouts. Is actually to go back and say, if I just, how many hectares do I need to actually grow? So this is going to take a bit of working out, Todd. But essentially, I've got 38 tons left, 38 tons of crops remaining. So if I go back to my feed supply page and go down here, you can see that 10 hectares gave me 96 tons, I should say. So it's a 12 ton per hectare crop. So if I go 38 divided by 12, it gives me an extra 3 hectares. So I should have, actually, I'm going to take that off, aren't I? I could probably get away with only growing 7 hectares. Let's see this. I'm just having a bit of a play around here and go next. And go down to the bottom of the demand page, go next. I've still got to do a bit of fiddling because I haven't adjusted the supplements, but I'm getting closer. So again, that's where it really should be used is way back when you're thinking about how much area I need to sow. Way back in the spring, you can work that area out too. Okay, so that is a budget that is only crops. As I say, it's like a cake that you've made and it eats it down, right? So we could save that, and then it adds to your list. You give it a name, so on and so forth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the start, and I'm going to show you when you add in some pasture. So we'll create a bit of a different scenario. So right back on the supply page, you click this radio button here, create a budget that includes pasture. And there it comes. Now, there's a new section here, this pasture section and nitrogen. So they're new components to the feed supply. You can still add in crops if you want to, and it's actually done that. So I'll get rid of that, not to confuse things, and I'll get rid of this supplementary feeds, but you can add in supplementary feeds. So, rightio, what it does is, actually what I might do, because it's kind of got a little bit confused, is I might go back to my map and show you something, and we'll start from scratch. Right, so what I might have actually done is on my map here, is I might have an area of the farm where I want to do a feed budget. And so I might have actually have a block that I've created. So see if I've got one here. This will do. Let's say my grazing rotation blocks. So I've got a nice area of the farm here. So I can select that. And when I've got those paddocks selected, this is another way to get into your feed budget. So I right click on them. And it comes down here and I can go feed budget. I get that same question. I'm going to include pasture. Again, the default's from today, 30 days into the future. So let's go from, again, a little bit further into winter, and let's take it out to, let's say let's say getting towards the end of August, getting ready within a week or so of set stocking. Okay, so now that I've got a budget that includes pasture, I've got some more questions. And so I've got it defaults to a pasture energy of 10 megajoules, so I can change that. And if I think my winter grazing's been pretty good and I'm actually, got a better energy, I'm going to increase that. Nigel can't see anything that's happening. Any tips to unfreeze the screen? Was it working, Nigel, previously? Is anyone still there, basically? Because I had a message come through that my video stream has been disconnected. Only the little map is visible. Anyone else can you see the feed budget screen? Okay, Steve's all good. All right. So what you should be looking at, and so we should say that this has been recorded, so we can post this, or we will post this out, I assume, via Facebook, and you can watch it later, I guess, and Nigel, if you're having trouble seeing it. Okay, I'm just going to carry on. What you should see, hopefully right now, is the feed budget screen. Hopefully. Anyway, so where was I? Okay, starting cover. So you've got to put in a starting cover. So this budget is about, really it's about asking questions about, I'm at a certain cover right now, and I want to see what's, given my management I'm going to set up, what cover will I be at some point in the future. So it's all about planning. And the best way, well, there's many ways, but, what you should be doing is using some sort of device, whether it's a rising plate meter or calibrated your eye or a little stick thing, to do some measurements. And that's really critical, is to actually get an accurate picture of what your cover is. If you do pasture covers in Farm IQ, we can do a whole lot of neat stuff with it, like start working out growth rates for you. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to put in a starting cover of, let's say, it's been quite mild around the Manawatu here. Say I've got 1700, maybe a lot lower than in other places. So you'll notice that these paddocks are already been selected because I started from the map and to start my feed budget. So it's given me, I've got 30 hectares here. This time of year, I don't expect to grow much, maybe 5, maybe 10 on a good day. The utilization is set as a default to 100%. I think the utilization is going to be pretty high that time of year, but I still don't think it's going to be 100%. So let's say I'm going to utilize 85% of my pasture. If it gets wet, then the utilization will go down. Now, see, there's a slight change here, is that when we're talking about crops, we were talking about wastage. Now this is a utilization. It's the sort of flip side of it. A little bit of inconsistency there, but yeah. So if you put utilization at 10% because you think it's wastage, then you'll see that your feed supply is going to go way down, and that's what's gone on there. So yes, you might be thinking of putting on some nitrogen at this time, so you can specify the area you're going to apply, how much kilograms of nitrogen, and then the response. So I'm not going to do that, but you can chuck some feed supply in that way, and crops and supplements as well. But I've shown you that, so we'll skip on here. All right. Next. What I'm about to say is important for both the demand and the supply side of things. So on the supply side, I said it's going to grow at 10 kilograms a day through that period. That's not going to change. FarmIQ is you set it up, and whatever you set, it's going to be the same for the period. And it's the same on the feed demand side, on the animal side as well. So if I choose some, for example, some mixed age ewes, come on, mixed age ewes, and I'm going to put in here, let's say I got 1,000 of them, and I mated them back in the middle of, towards the end of March, and I scanned 160%, and I'm expecting 30 kilogram lambs at 100-day weaning, standard size, and let's say I've got, 67 kilogram ewes, and really I'm just trying to tickle a little bit of weight into them there. So it basically, this is how it works. It looks at the period that you specified back on the supply page that you want to run the budget for, and then it looks at how you've set this up with when they were mated, and so it says, all right, so if you're mating on the 23rd of March, the mid lambing date is going to be the 26th of August, so that's in the future. And for the budget period that you've specified, the budget period is going to be, on average, 6 weeks till lambing. Okay. So what I was talking about before, when it's static, is it's saying is that for that budget period, it's going to work out the energy demand to be the same every day of that period for those ewes. So it's, for example, it's not going to add on this 200 grams every day from the start of the period to the end of the period. You've got to think about what's going to be the average weight at the midpoint of that period that I want to target. They might be a little bit lighter than that at the start and a little bit heavier than that at the end, but you think about the midpoint. And also the same with, the demand relative to the time of lambing. Obviously, as they get closer and closer to lambing, especially in that last trimester, their demand's really going up because of the demands of pregnancy, and even more so once they've lambed after they have lambed. FarmIQ will work out that demand for you, but it's not going to change that through that time. So my recommendation is to really make these budgets in nice little chunks, not more than 6 weeks, or particularly this, probably I've done mine a bit too long, maybe not more than 4 weeks, because you'll start to get out of whack with your demand calculations. Anyway, so that's just a little, I can answer some more questions on that if need be. But what it does is it says, these ewes through that time are going to need about 1.6 per head per day, given that it's 160% scanning, and that's when they were mated. So I think that's pretty cool. It takes out that looking up tables or guesswork. If you don't agree, you can actually come in here and type something. If you want to feed them more power to you. Feed them 2 kilograms. You'll notice it goes green, and so that's great. You know, now it's overridden it, and you're feeding your animals more, or it could be less. So then you go through, click next, and same screen again as the summary screen, but this time it's slightly different in that we're talking about this feed change. So, crikey, I'm in the big time. So I've got, basically what it's saying is that for 54 days on 30 hectares of pasture, I'm trying to feed 1,000 ewes, right? And we started at 1,700, and because our demand was well in excess of what we can supply, we've got it completely wrong, and it's gone into the negatives. So it's another thing of Farm IQ is that this feed budget, while it does the calculations, if you put rubbish information in, it will give you an answer that makes no sense. It has no understanding of what's biologically feasible. It will let it go into the negative. So I've got this way wrong. So for my 30 hectares, I can't feed 1,000 ewes for 47 days or 54 days. Either I've got to reduce the number of days like I did before, or reduce the number of ewes. So let's, again, take this down to 1 ewe. So 1 ewe over that time, she's going to require 110 kilograms of dry matter. Grab the calculator, go 13,890 divided by 110 kilograms equals, I can feed not 1,000, I can feed about 126 ewes over that period on that block. If my objective is to actually, I want to keep the pasture cover, the same starting cover as the same ending cover, maybe actually I'm happy to let it go down to say 1,300. So then I can start playing around with this and go, well, maybe I can feed twice as many. Okay, maybe another 50. There you go. I'm down to pretty low covers. I've gone down 450, so 250 ewes over 54 days. Growing, if I'm growing 10 kilograms of feed pasture, it's going to take my cover down. So again, go back to the, if you're not happy with that, chuck in some supplement or put on some nitrogen. You've got lots of options to play around with that and determine a sort of management that is feasible. So that has been a whirlwind look at feed budgeting in Farm IQ from a perspective of looking at it from a crop. So you're eating that down to where you're thinking about pasture cover through time. And we looked at where animals that don't have any pregnancy or lactation requirements are just straightforward growth and maintenance versus animals like ewes that are pregnant and going to be lambing here in the spring. So yeah, I don't see too many questions and answers. I'm going to have a look, but I don't see any more yet. That's about our half an hour used up. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I think that's all I wanted to say. I'll just check my list. Static model, override equations. Yep, I think that's pretty much it. So, as I say, this will be recorded and it will be posted, and you can have a, you can watch it over and over again. Riveting stuff. Okay, guys, if there's no more questions, I'll stop this somehow. Oh, yeah, no, there's just, yep, no worries, Luke and Steve, yep. When would you use the feed budget versus the feed planner? I think the feed budget is really good and tailored for, particularly for sheep and beef situations where you've got targeted periods that and parts of the farm that you want to do specifically. Whereas the feed planner is more tailored to planning out the whole year for multiple mobs and much longer time frame. So that's how I would use it. You can do multiple mobs. I don't think I showed that well, of multiple stock classes. So I just chose sheep or cattle, but there's no reason why you can't have several mobs or classes of sheep and cattle together and deer if you want to, with equations are in there to handle them all. I will say that the difference between the feed budget and the feed, one of another difference is that when you enter pasture covers into Farm IQ, they can come through to the feed planner and update as actuals. In the feed budget, this won't happen. You need to enter in the covers yourself. Always the stories enhancements to do in that regard, but I think the feed budget strikes a good balance between flexibility and being specific enough. Okay. All right. I've enjoyed this. Thanks very much. And yeah. Oh, hang on, another one. We'll see you next time.